this presentation, the impact of technology on physician relationships is actually going to take a really big picture look at how the internet has changed landscapes, particularly here relationships with peers, with pharma reps, and with patients. We're going to use our physician data sets to look at what the average US physician is doing today, but we can also cut the data by about 20 different specialty areas as well. So we know that it's no longer interesting really to just look at top-line internet adoption among physicians because all physicians are online. So what we really need to look at today is just how physicians are using the internet. And so before we start to talk about the relationships that physicians have with peers, with reps, and patients, we want to see the relationship that the physician has with the internet itself. So from this next slide, you can see that the relationship that physicians have with the internet is growing increasingly dependent and central. This is a great slide to show that back in 2001, only 1/5 of physicians said the internet was an essential part of their practice. We're growing to a majority at 2005 that said this, and then today we have 89% of physicians say the internet is essential to their practice. So the takeaway here being that the internet is not just an accessory, it's really an integral practice tool today. So how does this practice tool change the relationships that physicians have with their colleagues? We of course know that it's going to be a very strong relationship that colleagues have with each other, but what is the changing nature when you bring in the internet here? Perhaps in the most primitive form of the internet changing the relationship, we can look at just email. So 3/4 of colleagues say that they send email to or receive email from other physicians. And we see this is increasing as well. Under that, they're most likely to be emailing with office staff. But for comparative purposes, we can see that they're about half as likely to be emailing today with pharma outlets. But all of the different areas, the physicians are increasing their contact on email with all these different outlets. Now, in more advanced terms here, we're seeing that physicians are acting like consumers. They're posting and reading user-generated content. They're posting onto medical blogs, making comments on message boards, and making drug ratings and reviews. And on the right here, we can see the difference between the online and offline interactions that physicians are having. So of course, we know that physicians are going to be contacting physicians offline. But online, we see that the majority of physicians are posting or reading user-generated content online today. And this has actually been increasing up 15 to 20% in just the past 2 years. And what's interesting to note about these specific physicians is they're younger. They're more likely to be owning a smartphone. They're more likely to be reaching out and using pharmaceutical sites online. And they're more likely to be writing a higher number of scripts on average. Now, we like to call those physicians that are only reading user-generated content online, we often call them the lurkers, or lurking around the message boards. But I know they're, of course, an important part of this changing relationship, but it's really the people that are posting the content online that are really changing the relationship that peers have with each other online today. So as you see here from this pie chart, about 1/4 of physicians are regularly contributing or posting user-generated content online. And the top areas where they will be posting are a post on a message board, a review of a product, or a comment on a blog. And even though a little less likely, we are starting to see health-related videos pop up from physicians as well. Oops, sorry. Now, sorry. Okay. Because physicians are just like consumers, they're of course getting involved in the social networking craze, and we're seeing a lot more professional communities pop up. There are communities for all types of HCPs. There are medical student-specific communities, and then of course there are physician-only communities. Here's some examples, and what you usually see the offerings from these communities include things like discussions, opportunity to rank information, polls. There's also employment opportunities, and then links to outside sources like journals and CME. Some of these sites are actually incorporating the personal with the professional, and there's a relaxed doc on the top, has doctors talk about their hobbies and their vacations, so a way to kind of connect the two worlds. Now, even though current use of these types of communities is rather low, the immediate market is rather significant. We have 1/3 of physicians today saying that they're using or they're very interested in using physician-only communities. And on the left, we see that this interest and use is rising as well. Now, the specialties to be currently using, most likely to be using these physician communities, you can see infectious disease, most likely in emergency medicine. We see PCPs in there as well. And if you take an overall look at who is using, the total population using these physician-only communities, PCPs are highly represented here. It's also the young physicians that are leading the way here. For this chart, you can see that the age is plotted on the x-axis. So among those under age 40, 3/4 of them report use or interest in using physician-only networks. And you do see a sharp decrease in the use or interest as the age increases. But it's important to know that even among those that are age 55 or over, you do see the majority are still saying they're using or interested in using these sites. So age is really not so much of a factor going forward, probably. But right now, most of the people that are on there are going to be younger. At the same time, high prescribers are leading the way for use in physician-only communities. You can see here there's a positive relationship between script writing and use or interest in physician-only communities. So among those who are writing 200 or more scripts on average per week, about 2/3 of those are saying that they use or are interested in using these types of communities. And adoption is lower among those writing fewer scripts. But again, at the same time, just like the last slide, we see that there's still relatively high use or interest here. It's a majority, regardless of what the prescription writing habits are here. If you look the opposite way, too, we see that among all people that are using the physician networks, the overall script rate is rather high. And we don't see this as a causal relationship. We see it as rather because there is a high representation of PCPs here, that they are just high script writers in general. But the takeaway here is really just the relevance of pharma in this arena. So if you're a pharma company still thinking about whether or not you should get involved here, this slide may help you show that you probably should. We're going to close out the section on peer-to-peer relationships with just what features are physicians interested in these physician-only communities, links to external sources of CME, abilities to submit questions, electronic sampling. Those are some of the features they're most interested in. You can see on the bottom they're actually less interested in things like e-detailing or being able to schedule a time with a rep. So they see the rep as really just a separate area from these physician-only communities. And we'll actually segue now into what their preferences are with reps and how the internet is changing their relationship with reps in general. So despite the fact that there are a lot of sources for physicians online today, they can go to just a general health portal for physicians, they can go to a drug reference database or government sites, we do continue to see an increasing number of visitation for pharmaceutical sites. So product and corporate site visitation has increased drastically in the past few years. Back in 2001, only about 1/4 of physicians saying that they have visited these types of sites, reaching a majority in 2003. And now today, we're over 3/4 of physicians saying that they are visiting pharmaceutical product or corporate websites. But if you look in terms of frequency of visitation to pharma sites, it's actually lower than in comparison to other types of sites. So here, we see the average physician goes to a general health portal like a Medscape or UpToDate about 100 times a year on average. And comparatively, they go to product sites, the collective product sites, 80 times a year on average, so across all product sites. But when they're going to something like a customer service portal, like a Pfizer Pro or Merck Services, they're a lot less likely to go. They're going here only about 5 times per year on average.